Hello and welcome to episode 96 of This Week in Germany. We'll be bringing the world to Germany and Germany to the world with news for the week beginning the 2nd of November 2015. I'm Daniel.
And I'm Rob. Each week we feature stories from the news, society, and culture in the English language. If you want to find out more, including ways to follow us on Facebook and Twitter, head over to our website, thisweekingermany.de. And now we're starting episode number 96.
Yes, and as we mentioned previously, we have a big show coming up for our 100th episode. Woo! Yeah, I'm really excited about it. It's going to be a live event, which means that you can attend in person and you can also listen live online, whichever you prefer. But if you're in Berlin on the 28th of November, then you really should attend the live event.
Tickets are only 1 million euros a piece.
No.
They're selling fast.
I'm going to give you a 100% discount. Yeah, there's no cost. Just all you have to do is go to thisweekingermany.de/live in order to put your name down there, and you just click, yes, I'm going. And yeah, so there's a limited amount of seats. So you should sign up now if you want to come along. It is on Saturday, the 28th of November.
Yeah, I'm excited to get to meet some of you.
Yeah, and we'll be there to sign all
autographs for only 1 million euros a piece.
To sign body parts, to get selfies and all this kind of stuff. But no, it's going to be a great program because we're going to have special guests. We're going to have some really cool edited reports. We're working really hard. And it's just not just me and Rob as well. We've got a larger production team for this one episode who are all busy beavering away on some cool reports. So it's going to be an absolutely amazing show. So yes, thisweekingermany.de/live for all the details on that. But Rob, we have an episode 96 to do, and it's well worth listening to because we've got lots coming up.
We do. We have some of the news and briefs I was going to talk about, some changes that are happening to refugee policies. Also, someone stole some construction equipment because they might not have liked some of Germany's policies.
Odd thing to steal, but
yes. There was a bomb found in Berlin, and Germans really like beer, surprisingly.
Yes, that bomb was found, I believe, near the Jewish Museum in that area of Berlin. And so they dug it up out of the ground. It was an old World War II bomb. And they had to evacuate all of the buildings surrounding the area. But you'll get all of the details on that in our news and brief a little later on. We also have some information on meat. So we found out this week from the World Health Organization that processed meat apparently increases your risk of, colonic cancer, I believe it is. Or what is it? Colorectal?
Colon cancer?
Yeah, but it's like colonorectal or something like that. Basically, it's not nice. And... yes, but so a lot of people have been freaking out about this.
Seeing it all over social media this past week.
Yeah, and people have been worried that, can I continue to eat currywurst and this kind of thing? Because, processed meat is all over in Germany. Well, we'll tell you why you should and shouldn't be worried about that later on. In case you're at all feeling conflicted, we're just going to make you feel even more conflicted about it. But yes, don't start freaking out yet. But German sausage manufacturers definitely have... they're
freaking out a little bit.
They're freaking out a little bit, for sure.
For the destination, I have a pretty neat place. It's a brand new destination. It is the National German Football Museum that just opened in Dortmund. So I'm going to tell you all about that.
Are you saying football American or football British way?
Soccer for the Americans out there.
All
the
you
soccer
Americans
museum.
Out there. We have a lot of listeners in America, actually. I think that's the second biggest country in terms of listenership. So for all you Americans, it's the soccer museum. I can't even speak in that American accent. I'm not even going to try. Yes, and we have two rather rascally Germans of the week this week.
Max and Moritz. Oh, those rascally little tykes. They are turning 150 years old. I'll tell you.
Still
I'm sure you know who they are, but I'll tell you even more about them for the German of the Week segment today.
Yeah, they are kids, and yet they're 150 years old. There is something very unnatural about that. But yes, so we'll get into that later on. But first, we're going to talk about Angela Merkel visiting China. Just a few days after China's President Xi Jinping was treated to a sycophantic welcome in London, Angela Merkel travelled to China to shake some hands and ink some business deals. But let's start by taking the pulse of the two countries. First, Germany. The German economy is Europe's biggest. Unemployment here is less than 5%, which is ideal. Germany's economy is expanding at a rate of 1.5%, and that's great compared to many other countries in Europe. Still, industry here has been hit by the Volkswagen emissions scandal, though we don't know yet if there's been any big effect on the economy because of this. Some people are saying, well, people are not going to trust German brands now. The whole made in Germany thing is been taking a reputational hit. Well, we don't know that yet. One problem facing German companies is that emerging economies like Brazil and China are facing economic slowdowns. That means they have less spare cash to buy German products, despite the low euro making purchases in Europe relatively cheap. So Germany has products to sell, and it's quite cheap for many companies to buy in Europe now, rather than normally. But yeah, these countries don't have the money to buy as much and take advantage of this cheapness. So yes, as I said, China's economy isn't doing very well. There was a stock market crash a few months ago, and now the country's economy is growing at its slowest pace in over 20 years.
But if China's economy isn't doing that well, what does that mean for Germany?
Well, it's important because China is Germany's third most important trading partner. In 2014, there was over 150 billion euros in trade between the two countries. So, yeah, so it's very important for Germany. And the big thing that we're seeing, the trend that we're seeing, which is worrying people, is that the volume of that trade fell by almost 12% earlier this year. So that means that less German products are being sold to Germany. So that's getting people worried because normally China's a big market.
What type of products and services is Germany able to sell to China?
Well, China is a big growth market for car companies. So car companies like Volkswagen and BMW, they do very well in Europe, but China is the place where they're seeing their sales go up and up and up. And they're worried that there may be a change in this. So if the economy is not doing so well in China, that means fewer people have jobs, which means that fewer people have money to spend, which means that they buy fewer German products. That's the possibility here. So yes, but also aeroplane manufacturing is a big thing, and that's something that we saw in this visit. When Angela Merkel went over there with 20 German business leaders, they signed a big deal on airplanes. Well, 100 helicopters, 130 airplanes were sold in China, and out of all of the business deals, a total of 20 billion euros in deals were made on this trip. So it was an important trip in order to solidify the trading ties between Germany and China.
Is Germany's economy going to have any sort of problems with a slowdown in China?
Well, it depends, is the answer to your question, because China is changing at the moment. Before, it was export-led, so it pushes products out of its company, and then the cash flows in from other countries for that. And now, what China wants to do is it wants to get the people within the country buying things. So they want people to start buying technology, going out and buying some fancy meals and this kind of thing. So now that they've got now that many Chinese people, though not all, of course, have some money, they want them to spend this. And that's an advantage. That's an opportunity for Germany. So if Germany can provide enough products that Chinese people want to buy, then Germany can take advantage of this change. But the change might be a bumpy ride. China's not going to grow as fast as it was going into the future. And so, so it depends how rocky this change is going to be. But there is a possibility for Germany to get in there and grab some customers.
Germany to China and then back is a pretty long trip. Did they talk about anything else other than just business?
Well, don't worry, Angela Merkel can afford it. Yeah, well, they talked about Syria. So security, is an important issue for most of the top countries in the world. And so, yeah, they together, Angela Merkel and the Chinese Premier Li Keqiang, I think I've pronounced his name right, called for a diplomatic solution to the crisis in Syria. And also, there was an agreement signed to stop industrial spying between the two countries in 2016. Now, China already has that kind of agreement with the UK and the US, so it was important for Germany to do that as well. I don't know whether they're just going to continue doing it, but just a little bit quieter. I don't know. We've seen with some spying scandals recently that, just because it's illegal doesn't really stop them doing it. And yes, also human rights as well was an important issue. I mentioned earlier the Chinese president's visit to London. Well, Angela Merkel was determined not to repeat one mistake made by the UK. She was sure to show some criticism for China's human rights record. British Prime Minister David Cameron failed to deal with the subject at all, or perhaps even to turn a blind eye, while Merkel, on the other hand, met with human rights activists during her visit. However, that was just according to a statement by her spokesman. There was no media coverage of the meeting itself. Now, while Germany and China have a good trade partnership, they're hoping to become even closer. As China's economy switches gears, Germany has a big chance to take advantage of that change.
And now for this week's News in Brief. New policies this week on the ongoing refugee crisis that is affecting Germany in particular quite heavily. The first comes after refugees passing through Austria to get to Germany are spread so thin over the 800-kilometer border that Germany says they aren't able to effectively process them. Germany has now made a change, effective immediately, that all those refugees coming from Austria can only pass over the border at 5 different border crossings. The next policy was announced this week by Interior Minister Thomas de Maizière, that most Afghan migrants will not be eligible for refugee status in Germany. He said that most migrants coming from Afghanistan, as well as the Balkans, will be sent back to their origin countries. Both of these policies come at a time when emergency accommodations for migrants are becoming sparse. The temperatures in Germany and Austria are dropping quickly, and soon it may be a problem where people aren't able to stay warm enough. What is the speed limit on the highways in Germany? If you said there weren't any, then you're only partially correct. Germany is one of the few places left in the world where there are areas without speed limits on major highways, like the Autobahn. But there are ever-increasing new policies that are starting to add more speed limits to the Autobahn. Some residents are happy about the changes, believing that more speed regulations are needed, while others are dissatisfied over the new speed controls. One person, or possibly a group of people, were so unhappy with the new speed limits that they took matters into their own hands this past week and stole a digger from a construction site near Marburg. The digger was then driven to 3 separate sites where police speed cameras were installed. The digger was used to dig up the speed cameras and caused several thousand euros worth of damage. After the havoc was complete, the cameras and the digger were abandoned. As of yet, no suspects have been announced. Also, speaking of digging around Germany, there was an old World War II bomb that was recently found in Berlin's Kreuzberg neighborhood. It was said to be a pretty big bomb, 250 kilograms, and was discovered during an excavation before work on a new building. It's not uncommon to find undetonated bombs from the Second World War in Germany, but the procedure for safety is still very serious. On October 30th, at 9 a.m., a large perimeter of people had to be cleared before the bomb squad could start the defusing process. It was said that around 11,500 people had to clear the area. The defusing process was completed later and without complications. What do people think of when they think of Germans? Well, lots of things, and one of those stereotypes are all the drinks consumed by this beer-loving country. It most likely won't come as that much of a surprise that when Germany took the last World Cup in 2014, much celebrating was done. Beer was flowing like water that summer, an astonishing amount of 25 million hectoliters were sold from German breweries. Now, maybe it was the heat, or maybe the advertising companies were doing a really good job, but the numbers are in for the beer consumed this past summer, and it's nearly 1 million hectoliters, even more than at the height of the last World Cup. It's being shown that German people can't take all the credit, though, as one of the big boosts to the amount of beer sold this past summer are all other EU countries that are taking a liking to German beer. Now, when visiting the rest of the world, you can be sure a German beer isn't too far away. Facebook and its policies on taking down racist and xenophobic postings are once again in the news. But this time, the users of Facebook are the ones leading the charge for a change rather than the government. Many people are upset with Facebook about what they consider a lax policy on allowing hate speech postings on their site. A new campaign has recently started trying to gain attention of the Facebook policy administrators, as well as the general public. And how does this new campaign go about getting people's attention? Breasts. Ollie Waldhauer started this trend by juxtaposing two people together. One, a woman without her shirt on, and the other, a man holding a handwritten racist sign. A caption underneath reads, "Only one of these people are violating Facebook rules." After it was posted to Facebook, it was taken down within 2 hours due to a no nudity policy. Waldhauer wants the post to be banned due to the race-baiting comment, though. Now, this photo is trending and has been downloaded over 30,000 times from where he made it available, and it's being shared all over the internet.
Now moving on to story 2. You may be familiar with Germany's famed meat dishes. Walk into your average German supermarket and you'll see the fridges stacked high with pork products in particular. What else would you expect when two of the world's most famous meat products, hamburgers and frankfurters, are named after German cities? This week, the World Health Organization claimed that processed meat can increase the risk of colon cancer by up to 18%. Absurdly, this put it in the same category of carcinogens as cigarettes and plutonium. As one Financial Times columnist put it, the report brings up the strange idea that feeding your child a bacon roll equates to stirring plutonium into their cornflakes. This worried consumers and sausage makers alike, though perhaps for different reasons. You might have even seen the hysteria in the media. Out of the 940 substances the WHO reviewed, only one, a chemical used in yoga pants, was declared not to cause cancer. Sun, tea, aloe vera and shift work, and even working as a hairdresser all increased people's likelihood of getting cancer, according to the same researchers. So this report is a little hysterical. Apparently there's nothing you can do except cut everything out of your diet, and don't do anything either. Perhaps soon we'll be told that jogging or even salads can cause cancer too. Germany's agriculture minister says no one has to be worried when biting into a bratwurst, going on to say that the report was needlessly worrying people. To put things into perspective, 1 in 10 adults worldwide die from tobacco-related diseases every year. 1 in 10 of all adults worldwide. But just 34,000 from meat-related cancer. As always, the advice remains the same. Everything in moderation. And before we move on to Destination Germany, a short news story which came up as we were recording the podcast. The GDR politician Günter Schabowski has died at the age of 86. Now, he wasn't exactly your average politician, or at least he was until he made one historic announcement. The East German government had decided to relax rules preventing their citizens from entering the West, but the message hadn't reached Schabowski as to when these rules would be implemented. The press conference that day would change the course of history. Speaking spontaneously, he said, according to my information, immediately, without delay. Those words stunned journalists who started reporting that the wall was now open. People immediately started rushing to the border. What was supposed to happen was that the East Germans would be given the chance to apply for visas to enter the West, but stunned authorities took Schabowski's word and let people through. The wall was now open, all thanks to a mistake at a press conference. Günter Schabowski died on Sunday morning at a care home in Berlin. For more information on the fall of the wall, check out our Berlin Wall special, episode 46, via our website at thisweekingermany.de.
And coming up right now is Destination Germany. where we take you on a journey somewhere in the country that we think is well worth a visit. And this doesn't matter if you're a tourist or a permanent resident, a foreigner, or even a German citizen. We'll be covering those famous known sites as well as the little known corners, the diamonds in the rough of Deutschland. All that matters is showing you that Germany is an interesting and exciting place to visit. As always, if you enjoy the destinations that we talk about each week, go to our website, thisweekingermany.de. We'll have photos of each week's destination.
And if you listened to last week's episode, or if you visited our website, you'll have seen the south-central city of Ulm in the state of Baden-Württemberg. Ulm is known for many things, including being the birthplace of Albert Einstein and having the world's biggest church tower, apparently. But we weren't doing Ulm as a whole city. We were talking about the Museum of Bread Culture. That's right. Telling you absolutely everything you never asked about bread products through the ages. Go there and learn about how something as simple as bread has influenced civilizations around the globe. They don't actually sell bread though, but there are plenty of delicious bakeries just around the corner, as there are in every square inch of Germany. There are bakeries everywhere. And yes, and even the museum itself is made of bread. Well, it's not, but it should be.
It was, but then it rained, and so they had to rebuild it with normal construction material.
German engineering in action. So, well, now I'm completely hungry, so please tell me something good where I can go, which is good to eat wherever we're traveling to in our destination this week.
Well, pretty much any place that you go in Germany, you can find something delicious. I would say that larger cities, compared to maybe a city that I live in, larger cities have even more delicious things, and that is where we're going to today.
A larger city like Berlin?
Not yet, but I do have some really, really cool destinations lined up for Germany's capital. One of my favorite hotspots, Berlin. We're going to go to the capital pretty soon in the future. But today we're going all the way west to the city of Dortmund.
Yeah, that's in North Rhine-Westphalia, isn't it? So isn't it near Cologne, Dusseldorf, that kind of area?
Yeah, North Rhine-Westphalia does have a bunch of major cities there. Besides Cologne and Dusseldorf, it also has Essen, which is pretty big as well. But today's destination is Dortmund. So
wait, the destination itself is actually the whole city of Dortmund? I mean, that would be a lot to cover in just one episode.
No, just looking, we're going to Dortmund, and there are a lot of cool things there, and so I'll be revisiting the city. But the destination I want to tell you about all today is a brand spanking new venue here in the city. I want to introduce the German Football Museum, or the Deutsches Fußballmuseum. And when I say new, I mean it just opened like a week ago. It opened to the public on the 25th of October. Yeah,
I'd already forgotten that you'd mentioned this already earlier in the program, that we're going to talk about football, yes, or soccer for all of you American listeners. So I read about it in the news, so it was in a lot of the news websites recently. So a lot of the planners were a bit upset that the opening of the football museum came almost at the same time as the World Cup scandal that's been in the headlines.
I don't really want to dwell too much on the scandal that's going around in the headlines right now. I just want to tell you a little bit about the cool museum and all about the history of German football. Well, I'm not actually telling you about the history of German football. The museum is going to tell you about it, but I'll tell you about the museum, which will then tell you about it.
Okay, so has the museum been long in the making?
Yeah, it's been in planning for about 10 years. It was just after Germany hosted the World Cup Games in 2006 that they decided that some of the profits were going to fund a public national football museum so everyone could enjoy German football.
Yeah, I mean, that 2006 World Cup really left a positive impression on Germany. So, yeah, they had to do something, I guess, to market. So what can visitors find in this football museum?
It's pretty huge. It's 7,000 square meters of museum. And when you first come in, like some of the other areas, it just kind of feels like you're in this like huge stadium. So, and full of fans, they're kind of cheering, and you can see the silhouettes, and it just feels like you're one of the stars now, and everyone's looking at you.
Oh, cool. That sounds pretty nice. So then you go into this stadium, and you feel like you're being cheered at, that you're on the football pitch, and that you've scored a winning goal or something like that. Well, it doesn't sound like a kind of museum where you just go in and look at things in glass cases and read stuff.
Yeah, it's not like a typical museum where you think of, where stuff's just hanging on walls, and you're like, oh, that's interesting. But they have some really modern displays, and they kind of fuse together some art and new technology to really bring life to their exhibitions that they have on display.
Okay, so how do they show off like the history of football in Germany and what's gone into the making of German national football players and so on?
They do have a lot of history on the German national team throughout the ages, including when Germany was split into the East and West. So they have the West Germany side and the DDR side of football when that was taking place. And you get a really good look into what's been going on to make the current national team is what they really, really focus on, I would say, like a good portion of the museum. It tells you what it's all about, like what the national team is all about, and what has really gone into making the national team since the year 2000, when they really became recognized on the world stage.
Well, yeah, I mean, winning the last World Cup, I mean, the country's been, of course, seen for a while now as one of the top footballing countries in the world.
When you get a chance to visit this multi-floor museum, you also get to see a lot of highlights of some of the amazing plays that have happened along the way. And it isn't just like watching YouTube videos, because they present the material in a lot of fun different formats that people are giving some really good reviews to.
Okay, so I'm not really a diehard football fan. I don't know if you knew that, but yeah, but I mean, of course, the museum sounds interesting. Certainly the interactivity of it sounds really cool. So, yeah, is there anything else that you want to mention?
Something I thought was pretty neat is at the end of the tour, you kind of get a chance to see what it's like to be in the shoes of the players and to go through what they go through. They have the actual national team bus where you can get a feel for how it's like to live on the road as one of the players and get to hang out on the bus. And also, is always food with me, it's like one of my favorite things, is they have a restaurant where you can eat even some of the same dishes that the players get to eat. I thought that was really neat.
Oh, wow, cool.
I know it's food.
I guess they always eat like football-shaped spaghetti in this kind of thing. Yeah, okay, so yeah, everyone pile on the national team bus and head over to Dortmund to visit the German National Football Museum. That opened just last month in October, so it's a place every football fan will have a great time at. And if you want to see what the German National Football Museum looks like before you plan your trip, check out our website, thisweekingermany.de, where you'll find everything on every destination we've ever done. Next up, our German of the Week section, where we put the spotlight on a prominent person or persons from this week's news, a German citizen, or even a foreigner who we deem an honorary German, who could be factual or fictional, that's giving you a hint, who's had an effect for better or worse on German culture, society, or politics.
Yes, and as you can guess, we have not one but two Germans of the Week this episode. Their names? Max and Moritz. They may sound familiar to many of you as the two young lads are quite famous. And for both being boys, they have just turned 150 years old. Max and Moritz are fictional German characters that have a very dark and black humor about them. They are pranksters, and their pranks have some dire consequences, ultimately for the pair themselves. Their book was first created in 1865, and even with their cool pranks, they have become a worldwide favorite of children's stories. It has been translated to over 200 different languages. And where are the pair today? Well, the book is still going strong, especially in German-speaking countries. And spoiler alert, the two hooligan children will be doomed to repeat their naughty pranks, which ultimately end in them both being ground into bits and eaten by ducks. Wow.
And Max und Moritz bring us to the end of episode number 96.
A very fun episode, like all our episodes. And speaking of fun, I want to invite everyone to go to thisweekingermany.de/live, where you can learn all about the upcoming live event that we're going to have. So make sure you sign up for that if you're interested in coming.
Yes, you can also check out the entire archive of episodes at thisweekingermany.de and get our social media links and find out ways to support us on there as well. This Week in Germany is produced by Daniel Winter. It is written and presented by myself and Rob Bishop.
Have a great week. We'll see you in just 7 more days for more This Week in Germany.